It's so easy to be average. It takes a little something to be special, doesn't it? It takes a little something special to be a great player. Did you push yourself to be great today?
Yeah. The man of Scarlet and Gray. Yeah. Let's go. The man of Scarlet and Gray. What we reading now? Who we listen to? Who we rockin' with hard? The man of Scarlet and Gray. Who we vibing with? Who we riding with? Who we clapping for love? The man of Scarlet and Gray. What we reading now? Who we listen to? Who we rockin' with hard? The man of Scarlet and Gray. Who we vibing with? Who we riding with? Who we clapping for love? The man of Scarlet and Gray. It's time for it. You ready for it? It's my time. You better know it. It's go Bucks every time. Hating on us, you better.
Your undisputed source of all things Ohio State. This is the Men of the Scarlet and Gray podcast. Here's your hosts, Shannon Summers and Chip Minnick.
The Men of Scarlet and Gray.
Buckeye Nation, welcome to another great edition of Men of Scarlet and Gray here on Buckeye Sports Radio, a V-Sporto channel. I am your host, Shannon Summers, writer and editor for menofscarletandgray.com. I'm honored to be joined by my co-host, Chip Minnick, also a fellow writer and editor for menofscarletandgray.com. How are we doing today, Chip?
Doing well. A little cold in the northern part of Ohio here, but all things considered, that's pretty much par for the course. It's great to be talking Ohio State football with you again, Shannon.
Excellent. I enjoy talking Ohio State football anytime. We're also pleased to have Joe Dexter from his closet, the host of Script Ohio and editor of the Buckeye Battle Cry. How you doing there, Stuffy?
Well, man, the polos look nice in here. My wife's scrubs are very beautiful, and I can talk Ohio State football from anywhere. This is proof you can talk about Ohio State football from literally anywhere.
Exactly. It's all about the sound quality sometimes. We're ready to do another great podcast for our listeners, as we will be discussing Ohio State's 2016 football recruiting class. Buckeyes signed 25 players to letters of intent, and we can discuss the various positions, possible impact players, as well as if there was any surprises or disappointments related to signing day. Before we get into it, we want to remind you about the Buckeye Sports Radio app available on your favorite iOS or Android device. Chip has it on his iPhone. I have it on my Galaxy Note 5. I don't know if they have it out for the Windows yet. I think I hear Joe on the show complaining they don't have it on Windows yet.
Maybe
Someday. But don't forget to download that free app, and you can listen to our show and listen to Joe and his wonderful host, Claire, on their show, talking Buckeyes all the time.
Good time then for us to check in with their head coach, Urban Meyer, sitting down with Allison Hayes.
Joined now by head coach Urban Meyer, and you have become a master of National Signing Day. I know it's early in the day, but just what are your thoughts on your own recruiting class here at Ohio State?
Well, very little drama, which is good for the heart and also good for the fewer gray hairs, because our staff did a good job. We answered, some needs, which we have a bunch now. We lost 9 underclassmen, which kind of threw us for a loop a little bit after the bowl game. And but I think we rallied up, and I think Jordan Fuller was a big get because we needed help in the back end, and then we just signed the JC Malcolm, a 6'7", 320-pound tackle that we expect to be ready in June. So we did well.
How big? That was one you were sort of waiting on with Malcolm Pridgen. Just how much do you think he can help this class?
Oh, it was instant. We don't normally recruit junior college players. It's here and there. We lost some good players in the offensive line. Taylor Decker and Chase Ferris, our 2 tackles, are gone. We have some good young players. This gives us just some stability and depth immediate.
And, of course, everyone always wants to know who's going to be the next quarterback here at Ohio State, and you've got a good one coming in with this class.
Well, I hope a great one. I love him, and he's a guy that I've become very close with. Dwayne Haskins, he's got the skill set to do it all, make every throw. His best intangibles are he's a fierce competitor and his work ethic, and that's what you look for in a quarterback.
Now, this ever-evolving world of recruiting, and things are changing, and places like Notre Dame are sending semi-trucks out to get a kid's attention, and Michigan is having putting, a big show that they're putting on. How do you differentiate Ohio State in this world?
Are you kidding me? Did you see what happened when we played Michigan and Notre Dame? Put the spank on them. I ask you, how are they going to keep up with us? Go down to the Woody Hayes Center. Check out all the rings, all the trophies. We've got 2 national championship trophies from this century. Can I say that? We're the Joneses. We're the Ohio State University. How are you going to keep up with us?
We like to be the serious group, though. We like to be the one that this is someone's life you're talking about, but you also have to adapt. And I think we've adapted big time with the social media. Our visits are much different than they have been. So we're monitoring the 2 schools you just mentioned. Our rivals in Notre Dame are very good recruiters, and we watch them very closely what they do.
All right, guys, yesterday was the big day, the National Signing Day, if you want to call it. Everybody's eyes were attached to Ric Flair hating Ohio State. Of course, I'd hate him too if I can't beat him. They're partying up in Ann Arbor with 29 recruits and still couldn't beat Ohio State's 25. Joe, since you're our guest, I'll let you go ahead and start off your initial thoughts on the recruiting class we got.
Well, first and foremost, I hate that we as fans sometimes fight over a recruiting class. Who has the better recruiting class, this and that. We're not going to know about this. I mean, the class of 2013 was fantastic, but we didn't know right away they were going to be that great. We knew that they were going to be a grade A. So I hate saying, oh, Michigan, they didn't get as good of a class as us. You don't know, but what you do know is at least Harborough is over there doing his thing, and Urban's over here doing his thing, being balanced and more like that. Overall, the class, though, I thought anytime you can have the number 2 ranked class, which, again, I'm not a big fan of rankings, but when you can have the number 2 class in the country and you fill almost every single need that could even be possibly needed for Ohio State, it's a good day. 45 freshmen that could possibly play next year, that's something that's unique to Ohio State, but at least it's good knowing that players that want to be here are going to be here and have an opportunity to fill those voids.
Definitely. Chip, what are your thoughts?
Well, I agree with a lot of what Joe said. I think anytime Ohio State can sign a recruiting class that's highly touted and well-respected nationally, just like Joe, I'm not really much into the whole ranking thing. It's a good day for Ohio State fans, and obviously the coaching staff is very excited. Obviously I would love to have had the best recruiting class in the country, but I'm of the opinion Ohio State signed a recruiting class that's going to continue to allow the Buckeyes to be a contender for the college football playoff. Urban Meyer's repeatedly demonstrated not only is he an outstanding recruiter, but he and his staff excel at player development. As Joe said, we really don't know what we have until the players arrive on campus and are working with the coaching staff. But these players coming in can contribute to an already strong group, and the fans should be excited to see how they contribute probably as soon as this season.
And I'll add to that, the one thing when it comes to the best recruiting class and rankings and why I don't necessarily like it is anybody that's read Urban Meyer's book Above the Line or anything that he puts out there when it comes to the recruiting game and when it comes to the program that he's building, and any program really out there, you rather have the guys that fit what you want compared to the top guys out there. Yeah, sometimes there's going to be overlap where you're going to have the number 2 class in the country, but that's why I'm not so big on rankings when it comes to it, because a guy like Luke Fickell is going to turn a guy like Darren Lee from a quarterback into a top-notch linebacker. It's the coaching in the building, and like Chip talked about, it's the being able to turn these guys into players at Ohio State down the line. That's more important, that these guys can fit into that system and be open to learning what it is to be an Ohio State Buckeye, more compared to talent. Now, the talent has to be there. Don't get me wrong. You got to have these guys that are in this class talent-wise, but you also have to have the guys that you want there. And I think that's more important than a number 1 or a number 2 or a number 3 ranking class, is having the guys that fit what you want to do. And that's not just on the field. That's fitting the mentality of getting better every single day. It's the mentality of being a 100% leader, a 10%er, as Urban Meyer calls him, a guy that's going to lead the program. And that's what you want. That's the fit that you're looking for, more than saying, yeah, 24/7 Scout, Rivals, ESPN, we've got 15 of the top 30 or whatever. To me, that's more important to a program than it is necessarily having the best program.
Well said.
So you're saying kind of like how Michigan State's not been beating Michigan at recruiting for years, but they can't beat them on the field.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Mark D'Antonio knows what he's doing when he's recruiting guys, and obviously it's working. Stars don't matter. It's not stars. It's what you do on the field. And that's the best example you can think of in this country pretty much. I mean, there's others out there, but that's what it's about. It's about having those guys. And again, Ohio State has a lot of 4, 5 stars. That's the base of this class, but it's the fit that they're in. I mean, when you bring in a junior college guy, it's obviously about fit at this program. When you bring in some of these other guys from different areas, it's the fit that's the most important. And we get overlooked a bit. We overlook a bit the talent. Yes, it's there, but there's so many talented players that you have to narrow it down, even by using 150 offers or whatever it was from the coaching staff, and narrow it down to the guys you really want and focus on that and focus on what they bring to the table.
Right, and a lot of times, too, look at the 5 stars that come out. They're not hitting the field right away or producing. Look at Curtis Grant. It took him how long in order to show who he truly was for Ohio State, and he came in as a 5-star.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the perfect example. I mean, this is a guy that was on his way out and not making the impact that we thought he was, and then instantly within an offseason and a senior season, not only is he one of the better linebackers in the program, he's drafted in the NFL. Not only that, he becomes a big leader in the reason Raekwon McMillan is in turn turned into a captain the year next and is going to be a big part of next season. So that's the change that you look for in guys, and maybe it doesn't happen today, maybe it doesn't happen tomorrow, but you can see that wherever the role is, that role can be expanded upon, that role can be produced 100%, and that's the guys you're looking for. You're looking for the guys that are going to step on the field, like a Jordan Fuller, for example, in this class, who might not play right away. He might, but you know that he's going to have the ability to step on special teams and have an impact right away.
Well, look at Raekwon McMillan. When he came in as a highly touted 5-star, he's been playing ever since pretty much. Like you said, the coaching, the fit, and everything like that. You have anything else on that, Chip?
I just completely agree with everything Joe said. I think the culture that has been developed by Urban Meyer and the coaching staff, that is the driving force. I want to give credit where credit is due to the players. Obviously, they're immensely talented athletically. Ohio State wouldn't have been recruiting them. Other top programs around the country wouldn't have been recruiting them if they weren't. But I think, as Joe said, the fact that they have to be the right fit culturally, if that makes sense, what Ohio State is trying to cultivate not only as a football player, but off the field, the whole persona that Urban Meyer is trying to develop within that locker room, I think that's going to be the true measuring stick of this recruiting class. As Joe said, we may see some immediate dividends, but I think a true evaluation of a recruiting class is 2-3 years down the road. That's kind of when you can look and see, okay, who contributed, who really stood out, et cetera.
Exactly. Let's go ahead and discuss our specific position groups that we've stood out to us. Before any of you two steal mine, I just want to throw out the cornerbacks. So I'll let Chip go ahead and start this one.
All right. Well, I'm not stealing. I will just say that with such a highly ranked group, there's so many different position groups. But I have to confess, I'm excited about Ohio State signing 3 players for the tight end position with Jake Hausman, Luke Farrell, and Kiara Hawkins. Marcus Baugh is the only returning tight end with any game experience. Last season, both Rashad Berry and A.J. Alexander were redshirted. And last season, if you guys recall, Coach Meyer said neither of them were ready to play. So it's not going to surprise me if a couple of these tight ends, I don't want to say which ones, but a couple of the tight ends that have been signed, it wouldn't surprise me if they earn some playing time this fall. Shannon, I know that you want to talk about the cornerbacks, but with all of the major losses that due to the early NFL declarations, Joe mentioned Jordan Fuller a moment ago, players like Kareem Felder, Wayne Davis, Jason Wint, Rajay Burns, they may all have a chance to impress and play early. I would be willing to bet that they'll probably get their playing time first and foremost on special teams because that's kind of the ticket to regular playing time. But Coach Meyer did single out Jordan Fuller in his comments about a freshman who he anticipates being able to contribute early. So I apologize if I stole too much of your thunder on the cornerback position there.
No, you didn't steal it. I just let him get it out because every time I go to you first, you always have what my ideas. Shows you how on track we are with each other.
So maybe I stole the tight end from Joe. I don't know.
What are your thoughts, Joe?
Well, there's so much talent, and the athleticism when you're talking about a class at Ohio State's always going to be there, and the athleticism to me combined with the size at wide receiver is just unbelievable in this class, and it's because of Dwayne Haskins, the quarterback, that we get more of that in a guy like Benjamin Victor helping recruit. I mean, Dwayne doesn't play the big role in it, but Benjamin Victor is 6'4", 177 pounds, brings size and speed at that receiver position. Austin Mack is a guy that everybody loves, and this is a guy that has not only size, but just a big frame. The guy that, when you're looking at a prototypical offense, which it looks like the Ohio State Buckeyes are trying to kind of go with this class, when you look at Haskins, who's a pro-type quarterback that can do dual threat type things like a Deshaun Watson, not comparing the two, but kind of similar skill sets. When you add a guy like Austin Mack, who has that 220-pound frame that can play the slot and do things in that prototypical offense, that's going to be fun to watch. And this is a guy that's climbed up the recruiting boards from the day he committed at Ohio State in June and has really transcended those rankings and has become one of the top receivers in the class to people. So I'm excited to see what happens at wide receiver and how the offense changes at that tight end position too, because with that depth needed, this class brings a little bit different of a tight end to the table, in my opinion. A guy like Luke Farrell at 6'6" and 240. You're talking about a guy that's going to block in a two tight end set, but that's a guy with some big size at tight end that can catch footballs. 6'4" for Jake Hausman. I mean, that's what I love to see too at the tight end position. So Chip, you did steal my thunder a little bit there.
Apologize. It was not intentional. Okay. Shannon can tell you it's never intentional.
No, I like what the direction that they went. Secondary for Ohio State with losing Eli Apple and Tavis Pyle and Von Bell and a lot of injuries that Ohio State had last year. Seems to be a group that really needed a lot of attention, and I think they kind of hit a home run in some of their picks, hopefully. And only time is going to tell. We need some guys to step in right away. Who's going to be opposite Conley to start the season is going to be a pretty interesting battle. Like the linebackers that they picked up, like the idea of, the new Haskins with the quarterback or whatever. But, I mean, you got Burrows and Gibson waiting in the wings. So it's going to be interesting how everything unfolds and who goes where and does what. The biggest thing, too, is not counting this recruiting class. How many of the freshmen last year still had their black stripes and need to get them removed and don't have any playing time at all? So it's going to be a really, really young team, but if there's anybody that can bring a young team together, it's this coaching staff and Urban Meyer.
And I think that's the big part, and the guys that we get excited about are the guys that the coaching staffs are most exciting about, the coaching staff in general. I mean, like Haskins, for example, when you have Urban Meyer saying it's the best quarterback at his age he's ever seen on tape, that's something that gets you really excited because he's seen a lot of quarterbacks. He's coached a lot of great quarterbacks, and at that age, to have the best release that he's seen, the best presence in the pocket that he's seen, to say that after dropping off recruiting him a little bit and to see the difference between the young sophomore tape compared to the senior tape and to see that progression just between that time, I think it's not necessarily the players that get you excited. It's just how the coaching staff reacts to those players. And we've seen in the past, like you mentioned, there was a lot of excitement for like a KJ Hill who should have possibly played last year according to the coaching staff. And these guys are going to play next week and that's going to happen. But it's still also, I think the excitement you get built upon, especially at skill positions, is when coaches start hyping those guys.
And just like when, forget what year it is, at the top of my head, I want to say 2001 possibly, Troy Smith and who was that other quarterback he was battling that was highly touted, was supposed to be the starter?
You got it.
Yeah. You never know what's going to happen.
If Ohio State's the pure example of that at quarterback, I mean, my goodness, what's happened at quarterback throughout the last few years, that's definitely clear. And that's something that's very important, I think, as the position continues to evolve and to see the guys that are coming in. You've got guys in the system like JT Barrett, a great player, and he's going to do great things next year. But you also see the transgression from there. From there, there's Stephen Collier, who's a similar type quarterback, maybe a little bit more dual threat. And now we're seeing more of a prototypical quarterback, and that's going to be fun. For me, at least, I like to see where that goes, and I want to see if we're going to see the pro-style quarterback in Ohio State offensive system with this much weapons. I am excited to find out where it goes, and that's where it gets fun when we get to spring and we get to see these guys on the field. And a couple of these guys obviously won't be there for spring, but it's going to be a lot of fun to see where things evolve. And that's what's fun about recruiting to me and taking a look at the classes coming in.
Right. You're listening to Chip Minnick and Shannon Summers, Men in Scarlet and Gray, along with Script Ohio's and Buckeye Battle Cry's Joe Dexter here on Buckeye Sports Radio, a V-Sporto channel. So is there any specific players you're going to be keeping an eye out for with this class coming in, making an impact for next year?
For me, Malcolm Pridgeon's the big name, the offensive tackle. 6'8", 303 pounds. He's a junior college player, so that means one thing. Obviously, this coaching staff believes he's going to play right away, or at least bring depth in the two deep at offensive tackle, where obviously, again, the Buckeyes are very young heading into the year. They'll have to replace 2 starters at tackle, and if they're excited about him with the short amount of recruitment that they actually did, then that's going to be fun. And I think he's going to be more developed than some of the tackles there, and that's saying something because the talent at tackle is crazy good and crazy future-wise. They're going to be a good group, but Malcolm Pridgeon might be the name that jumps ahead of him just because of experience and age and being able to step in right away.
Can we nickname him the Semi?
I think he's a Mack truck, Freightliner. You can call him whatever you want. Peterbilt, I don't care.
The next sack machine or the pancake machine behind Orlando Pace.
There you go. I mean, I don't like to hype a guy before they actually prove anything, but at 6'8", I mean, good Lord.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy. Chip, who's your players?
Well, Joe stole mine, but that's all right.
Even now, right?
I am forgiving. I'm a very tolerant person. But in all seriousness, the 6'8", that does evoke memories. I want to slow down the hype train just like you guys too about the Orlando Pacings, but it does evoke a lot of memories of Orlando Pace because I can say from a personal experience standing next to Orlando Pace, that is the most massive human being I've ever seen. It was just to kind of give the idea, I guess it would be just imagine if your doorway or your garage door, to be a little more precise, all of a sudden just started walking towards you. I can't imagine what it must be like lining up opposite somebody like that play after play. We already talked a little bit about some of the early enrollees, Austin Mack, Antonio Williams. He's already on campus. The reason I'm bringing up those kind of names are simply because, as I said, they're already on campus. The possibility of seeing them in the spring game in April, just to kind of see how much they have progressed in their time since enrolling in January, that's going to be something to see. A player that I have seen in person on a few occasions is DeMario McCall. He played for North Ridgeville, which is relatively local.
Thunder Steeler.
Okay, see? We do it to each other.
That's more like Lightning Steeler with DeMario McCall.
Exactly. You're right.
I've seen DeMario McCall play a few times, and maybe, Shannon, maybe you have a different opinion, but I guess for those fans who may not have seen DeMario McCall play in person, I would call him a taller Dontre Wilson, if that helps, I guess, to kind of give the same kind of style of player, very quick, very agile. The caution, I guess, if we're going to try and slow down that hype train, having not only seen him, but actually standing by him, I will embarrassingly say, as he walked by, yelled out, "Go Bucks," and he did smile at me after I said that. But standing nearby him, he's listed at 170 pounds. I think that's being a little generous, personally. I think he looks a little more slight than 170 pounds. So my point being is I wouldn't be surprised if McCall plays this season, but long-term, DeMario McCall needs some work with Coach Marotti to truly bulk him up, to truly make him a lethal, effective weapon in the offense beyond 2016. I look for him to play in some capacity, but I would just kind of emphasize to all of the fans, don't be surprised. I mean, there might be some growing pains just simply because of that lack of girth that you need to play at this level in the Big Ten.
Having seen him, Chip, do you see him being a guy that could play a different role than H-back? Because the question I have about it, and we talked about on our show, is what is the future of the H-back position at Ohio State, and could he play a different position?
I think they listed him, Joe. I think they listed him not only as running back but also wide receiver. So,
okay.
To answer your question, I'm going off of the official Ohio State press release when I say that, is I think they're going to start him as an H-back, but to your point, what is the evolution of the H with Ohio State's offense going forward? I think, the fact that he is so quick and he is so agile, it would make sense to me that as a wide receiver or a flanker or a kick returner, beyond just playing that traditional H role, I think there are a wide variety of different possibilities. Personally, I know he played for North Ridgeville. He played cornerback the few times that I saw him, and this is not meant to disparage him, but he's definitely an offensive player. I mean, it's not that he won't hit, but I mean, he's pretty slightly built, and I can't imagine him, having to come up and tackle, regardless of which opponent we're talking about, a 220, 230 pound tailback coming straight at him. I don't think that would be a pretty sight. To kind of put some historical perspective behind it, since it is Super Bowl Sunday rapidly approaching, a lot of people forget that Ted Ginn originally thought of himself as a cornerback, and Ohio State immediately said, no, you're playing wide receiver. So, and he was, pretty slightly built when he came out of Cleveland Glenville, back in 2004. But yeah, I think there's a wide variety of different options with him as a receiver or a return man, definitely as a special teams contributor. And I've stolen all of Shannon's lightning, as you guys said. So.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you just said about him. I mean, my biggest issue is, like you said, with his slight frame and everything. The kid is very fast, but he seems to be injury prone, and he definitely needs at least one season with Maraldi in order to be able to get his body where it needs to be. I'm hoping to be able to see him on the field, at least maybe even returning punts or something for right now. But it's just, he's one that I'm agreeing with you on keeping an eye on for next year.
I'll add one more thing about DeMario McCall, believe it or not. And all I've seen of him is the Army All-American game. But watching him in that game, there's an obvious drive to get the extra yard. Even at the size, the frame, there's a drive, whether he was catching the ball or even just running the ball, whatever it was, to get that extra yard. And anytime you have that in a guy, even if he is 170 pounds soaking wet, that's something that's encouraging moving forward. And no matter what happens to that position, you always love to have a guy like that even at the least you could use as a flanker and use as a guy that can be a weapon on the outside. I was watching him in this game, and I know you can't compare. It's a exhibition game, but he reminded me of a guy like a Danny Woodhead or a Darren Sproles type of player where no matter what, if you use him right, he's going to be effective. So it'll be fun to see if he can be that type of player.
That's a great comparison. I think Darren Sproles is that's an excellent comparison. I think, when you think about, I remember seeing Darren Sproles used not only just, as a running back, but kind of what we were talking about earlier, that wide variety of possibilities of return man, receiver, those kind of things. He definitely has unlimited potential, and I agree with you. He definitely loves to compete. Every game that I've seen him play, I think when I saw him play against Westlake, I give credit to Westlake because they won the game. They held him to only 5 touchdowns and 300 yards rushing, so that just kind of goes to show the kind of explosive talent DeMario McCall possesses.
Those demons.
Exactly.
I think we finally got past the point as Ohio State fans and quote-unquote analysts where we don't have to say, DeMario McCall, he could be the next Percy Harvin.
Oh, yeah.
It's nice. It's
Who?
nice.
Yeah.
You're giving me a migraine. Last one I want to mention before we move on, as far as keeping an eye out, and I know Urban mentioned him, is Jordan Fuller. I mean, he's 6'2", 200 pounds. We need a cornerback on the other side opposite Conley. You need the size, you need the speed and everything, and that kid looks like he's going to be the real deal, so I'm kind of hoping he's going to be possibly maybe that second one and start off out the gate, helping out Conley.
I appreciate a physical defensive back in this defense, and especially a guy that's going to be 6'2" and coached by Greg Schiano. I love that.
Oh, I know. Could you imagine? You got to chase your money, and with injuries and everything, nothing against Eli Apple, but if he would have stayed one more year with Schiano?
I think, if memory serves correctly, I think Eli Apple was one of those underclassmen that Coach Meyer referred to, that it was somewhat of a surprise to the coaching staff that they had expected 6 players and they wound up losing 9. That I want to say that Eli Apple, Titus Powell, and Jalen Marshall kind of fell into that surprise, we're going to category that they really hadn't planned on having to replace. But I agree with you. I think another year may have served Eli Apple, but wish him nothing but the best as he prepares for the NFL draft.
Exactly. So who are you guys' sleeper picks? We'll go ahead and start with Chip on this one.
Well, with a class that's rated this highly, it's kind of tough to call any of them sleepers, but I have to confess that I'm hoping for Gavin Cupp and Jason Wint to emerge. Just Gavin Cupp had the recruiting saga with Michigan State where they pulled his scholarship because he came to Friday Night Lights, and then he earned his Ohio State scholarship as a result of his performance at Friday Night Lights. Coach Meyer even said that was not out of sympathy. That Gavin Cupp truly earned that scholarship. And Jason Wint was a later addition. He had been committed, I believe, to Temple throughout his entire season, and then right in December, Ohio State offered him. They were able to flip him from Temple, I think, at the beginning of the new year. Everything I've read about Jason Wint online, he doesn't have the physical stature of Jordan Fuller, Shannon, how you were just describing. I think he's listed at 5'9", 5'10", but everything I've read about him online, he loves to hit. So maybe he's going to get an opportunity to make a name for himself early on special teams coverage and work himself into that safety rotation.
Is taking the number 1 defensive end in the country a sleeper pick?
It depends. His last name better not be Bosa.
Okay. Well, never mind then. I won't take him. But one name that sticks out to me, a couple of guys actually that I think that could really have an impact right away and be sleepers. I always love the linebackers because of the coaching and what Luke Fickell does at linebacker. It's proofs in the pudding and the guys that are going to be drafted this year. But a guy like Keandre Jones, when the coach comes out and says this is a guy that's going to be a captain at Ohio State someday, that gives me a good indication that that's a guy that could really have an impact. He's talked a lot about some of the other guys as well. Michael Jordan's a guy that could be a sleeper pick. I'm going kind of proud, though, and I think Antonio Williams is going to head into camp and have an opportunity to pick up some carries. I don't know if he's going to be able to surpass a Mike Weber or what happens to Curtis Samuel in the future, but I think that Antonio Williams is at least going to put a stamp on his name in fall and be able to show that if not this year, next year, he's ready to take on a bulk of carries or an amount of carries to help this team out. And he's a perfect type of running back to complement some of the other guys that are in the system. I'm going to take him. I think that he could be a really good, I don't know if he's necessarily a sleeper because he is a high-profile prospect, but I think in this offense, with the guys that are returning, despite Ezekiel Elliott going in the draft, that you could consider him a sleeper pick.
Yeah, I'm going to go right now with my first one is Rajay Burns, 6'1", 180 cornerback. I have a thing for cornerbacks and the safeties, and I have a thing for the secondary. Also, Malik Harrison. I mean, is he going to be offense? Is he going to be defense? How's that going to shake out for him? It's going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on because I know.
Can we get him on the basketball floor? I mean, this is a guy that is like one of the top 10
we ain't gonna
in
go
the
there.
country, or top 10 in the state. That could use him. I mean, 6'4", 215. I minus the fact that he said the University of Ohio State. I like this guy.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like I said, 6'4", and if he happens to play in the secondary, that's going to be great. If not, on the wide receiver, it's a tall target. It's going to be fun. I'd take a tight end, but it just, for some reason, since Urban Meyer has come to Ohio State, no matter who he has as offensive coordinator, they don't know how to use a freaking tight end.
I think Ed Warner's going to make that a little different. That's just
don't tease me.
I'm not teasing, and I'm not saying that this is going to come to pass, but it would not surprise me that might be something different with Ed Warner up in the box. That's just gut.
I mean,
gut
even
instinct.
Office even Office Space. Tom Herman. Tom Herman. Yeah, he couldn't figure out how to use the tight end all the time.
Okay.
Once in a fleeting moment.
He used them better. He used them better than Ed Warner did this past year.
Oh, yes.
The inner Woody in me is so mad at you right now.
At me?
No, at Shannon.
Okay.
3 yards in a cloud of dust with double tight ends. What's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with that.
All right. Just want to make sure. Just got to make sure here. I don't want you thinking that we need
I'm saying that, you could use them as a target down the field too, because, a tight end, they have these things that are called hands. They catch the ball.
This is not 1972 anymore. All right.
Right. Okay. Now, you're talking about another coach that won national championships. This isn't like that team up north where we worship one that hasn't won any, and we're worshiping another one that, yeah. He's got 2 bowl wins to his name. You're listening to Chip Minnick and Shannon Summers, Men in Scarlet and Gray, along with Script Ohio's and Buckeye Battle Cries Joe Dexter, here on Buckeye Sports Radio, a V-Sporto channel. So is there any disappointments for you guys related to this recruiting class? I'll let you go, Joe.
No. I mean, there's nothing to be upset about in this class. When it's the number 2 ranked class, everything's spread out evenly. There's so much. The one position you wonder is just a rushing defensive end, but then you look at the roster and you're going, holy crap, there's linebackers from last year. A guy like Justin Hilliard could fill that role. And then you got 2 guys in Tyquan Lewis and Sam Hubbard that are going to demand a lot of playing time. There's a lot of young at that position already, and Nick Bosa. So maybe an edge rusher I was thinking possibly, but other than that, no. I mean, there's nothing else. At one point, I was concerned at quarterback just because I thought that there should be one in this class with J.T. Barrett moving on and not necessarily knowing what's going to come from the other guys and not necessarily knowing the class of 2017 at the time. But right now, you look at this class, everything's there. The offensive line depth maybe was a little bit weak, but after last year and the guys that they brought in and with Malcolm Pridgeon, there's nothing here to say they missed the ball except I don't know. There's nothing. I can't think of anything.
Chip.
I agree with Joe. I think anyone who's really looking to, find flaws with this recruiting class, I mean, you're really grasping because as we said right at the onset, this is a highly ranked, highly rated recruiting class. Defensive tackle might be something that, going into next year,
Thunder
because I'm looking at it from a depth chart perspective of Adolphus Washington, Tommy Shutt, Joel Hale. They're all leaving, and Ohio State only signed Malik Barrow, and he's coming off an injury. He's one of those early enrollees, but that's discounting the fact Robert Landers, Devon Hamilton, those are 2 players, and we haven't even talked about the fact that Donovan Munger, Tracy Sprinkle. There are a number of players who are still on the roster who this is their opportunity to seize the day and claim the interior defensive line spots for themselves. I would guess going into 2017 defensive tackle, but I completely agree with Joe. I think if you're looking for flaws, I mean, you're really looking. You're probably the kind of person that, somebody hands you, a glass of champagne and you're going to be the, what kind of brand is it kind of person. I think you're really grasping.
You mean like Cardell Jones winning a national championship and going undefeated, he sucked?
I never said that.
No, I'm just saying that's the type of person.
Or the type of person that gets a thrill watching Signing with the Stars or whatever. That's the type of person that complains.
Right. Didn't mean to steal your thunder there, Shannon, either. So.
Oh, no, you did.
What was that, Joe?
If you have a thrill watching Brad Keselowski, Jim Leland take the stage, Derek Jeter, if that is your favorite cup of tea with your little glass of champagne, you're the one that is complaining about a recruiting class. Probably because you're insecure about that recruiting class. So even though you got a guy coming in with a limo and he's coming into this signing day parade, whippy, good for you. That's the type of people that complain. The people that go to work, the people that don't need a semi-truck to attract people, they're not worried about it. The fans of that team, they're not worried about it. I am done with this rant. Thank you very much.
This rant is sponsored by Ric Flair. Yeah, I was going to say defensive tackle, if anything, just to nitpick, just because you need a little bit more depth. That's the only concern that I have, is just the depth issue and the rotation that they always want to have is 9-10 guys. I think we'll be fine with that for next year, but it's a little bit on the scary side. But I mean, I'm looking at the chase right now, and the man's on the cover, and 3 national championships, and Urban I trust.
And that's the thing about those positions, defensive end, defensive tackle. You could have 57 guys lined up, and it's still not enough. I mean, that's a position where there's never too much depth, especially when you look at what Coach Johnson wants to do at that position. Even with the names that we haven't mentioned, Joshua Allaby, Jashawn Cornell, guys that could fill in and play defensive tackle if need be. Even with those guys, you're looking for depth in every single class to build that up and keep it going every single year, because you just never know. At some point, that depth is going to run loose. It worked out this year, but when you look at the 3 technique in Adolphus Washington moving over there with Michael Bennett moving on to the NFL, that could have been disastrous if it wasn't for a versatile type player on the defensive line like Adolphus Washington being able to make that move. So it's always imperative, and the depth is always going to be something of concern and something you can never have too many of at defensive tackle, in my opinion.
I agree. I mean, look at the Notre Dame game. You lose Joey Bosa. Washington was out.
Oh, man.
I mean, could you imagine if Noah
Shutt was out.
Didn't have his...
Shutt was out also.
Shutt was out also. So, and could you imagine if Noah didn't have his problems years before? And like if everybody...
Oh, my goodness.
So, I mean, you can say what ifs and everything like that, but you keep plugging along, and it's next man up. Just got to go with it. All right, we're going to, Joe, since you're our guest, get your final thoughts as Ohio State prepares for spring practice and gets ready for the spring game, which tickets are on sale, by the way, but there's no club seats available. What are your final thoughts?
Well, you know what? I just love being an Ohio State fan, and I know I'm coming on your show, Shannon, and I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to drop the hammer because it's the type of person I am.
Drop it like it's hot.
At least I'm glad I'm an Ohio State fan, because at least my fans won't have to pay taxes to watch my team practice in Columbus.
Now you're going somewhere you're not supposed to. No. That's not dropping it like it's hot.
I said drop the hammer. I mean, no, I just.
For the record, they've announced they're staying in Berea for 2016.
Oh, my bad. Well, good. They
still a bunch of malarkey.
Stay over there, please. Stay. Do not invade Columbus. Thank you. I am a Detroit Lions
fan, for those that are wondering,
by the way, so you can make fun of me all you want. But
for those that are wondering, a story came out on Cleveland.com saying that the Cleveland Browns are going to be moving to Columbus for training camp, and the Ohio Senate was putting a bill together for taxpayers to pay $5 million for a facility in Columbus for the Browns to use and other things to use during the course of the year, which is a bunch of BS because, I'm sorry, I'm having an issue with paying for stadiums when these guys are making billions and billions of dollars and we have to foot the bill. That's besides the point. End of that rant. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, and I'll add one last thing to it. The thing that makes it even more gross is the way they were trying to hide it and say it was going to be used for other things. Those other things are going to happen, but what's the main point of this facility? I mean, that's the thing that's really gross about it. But anyways, getting back on point, the final thoughts on this class. I just think it's going to be a class that, at least on paper, it rivals the class of 2013. And what I'm looking forward to is seeing which players of this class are going to be the leaders like we saw in J.T. Barrett, the leaders we saw in Ezekiel Elliott, the leaders we saw in Joey Bosa. Who are those guys going to be in this class? And it's fun to see and watch these guys develop. And I think that we have a great class here. Ohio State's future is bright as it's ever been. And despite being young heading into next year, I'm excited. I'm really excited to see who's going to be the next ones to step up. And I think there's a lot of guys in this class that are ready to make some noise.
Chip.
Well, I'm glad that you guys brought up the Cleveland Browns, and Joe talked about the Detroit Lions there, because I've got kind of a little tangent here. Listening to Joe and Claire on Script Ohio.
Making fun of our Browns? Yes, it's embarrassing.
Well, actually, what I was as it relates to recruiting, listening to them on Script Ohio, I agree with that, and I think we would all agree that there's probably too much emphasis upon recruiting on a national scale. I think it can be a bad thing. It can create an entitlement culture. The little tangent I was going to make about the Cleveland Browns is Matt Wilhelm, who was an All-American linebacker, played for Ohio State, played on the 2002 national championship team, had a lengthy NFL career with a variety of different teams. He won a Super Bowl ring with the Green Bay Packers near the latter portion of his NFL career. When he was talking about signing day, this was in relation to all of the troubles and issues confronting Johnny Manziel. Matt Wilhelm went on a tangent talking about when he committed to play for Ohio State back in the day, he didn't have a press conference. He didn't, do anything crazy with a hat or he didn't have a limo or any of the other things that we've been talking about. He literally contacted his position coach, which was probably Fred Puggich at the time. He let his head coach know, his family know. It was basically, I want to come to Ohio State. There was congratulations, there were hugs, but it wasn't a big spectacle. And in Matt Wilhelm's point of view, that too much of this type of hoopla around recruiting, that's kind of contributing to the entitlement that is afflicting players like Johnny Manziel, other people, where the idea of, I think, Joe, the way that you refer to it on your show is, the kind of everyone gets a trophy, that can be a very dangerous thing. The positive, as an Ohio State fan, I would say, fortunately, with Urban Meyer at the helm, these new recruits coming in can expect, if they haven't already expected this to happen, I, as a Ohio State fan, I can promise them that it will happen, that they are basically starting all over. For example, one of the early enrollees, an offensive lineman by the name of Tyler Gerald, Coach Meyer made some statements on signing day that Gerald came in, quote, a little overweight. So Ohio State is in the process of, quote, de-recruiting him right now. I think the way that Claire says it on your show, Joe, basically, these players right now, they're in the process of having to pay their dues. My point being, should these players and their families and coaches be excited? Absolutely. But the reality is, all of the high school accolades that they have accomplished, that's what's led them to this moment. Now's the time for these players to seize the moment with all the hard work in the weight room and in the classroom to pay their dues, like the players who have preceded them, who have made Ohio State football what it is. As Joe said, for spring practice, I'm looking forward to reading and hearing about the different players who emerge at the different position groups, with 45 freshmen on the roster for this coming season. So I'm happy to announce that I purchased my spring game tickets early today, and I'm eagerly looking forward to April 16th in Ohio Stadium with my family, looking forward to seeing not only some of these early enrollees, but a lot of the redshirt freshmen, and getting an idea as to what the 2016 Ohio State Buckeyes are going to look like.
And I'll add one key part of it, that even off the field, and I think anybody that's listening out there that has raised kids through sports will speak to the whole trophy idea. And this isn't instantly Ohio State that I'm talking about. It's just across the board. It's the key after football, because when you start treating a guy that's a top recruit, giving him a limousine and you start driving him in and you start doing this and giving him those things, when the real life hits, the football is gone and the top 1% move on to the NFL. 1% is moving on from college football to the NFL.
Terrell Pryor.
when that happens, these guys need to be prepared. They need to be ready for real life. And if you're sucked into those situations as a football player at the college level and given those successes, where do you go from there when football is taken from you? Where do you go from there when there's nothing else for you? And teaching that as soon as possible and just being able to have that out there instead of a limousine or instead of giving them a party to invite them to the party, which it's not. This is a real life situation for these guys. I understand that, and it is college. I understand that. I went, I had fun, but it's a different animal that we live in than maybe we did at that age, and maybe that's why I'm grumpy about it and I get upset about it. But I think if you can teach that, and that's what I love about this coaching staff and the ideals of this coaching staff and everything you see in the guys they recruit and the guys that exit the program. Every single guy that is exiting this program is better off when they came into this program, and it's a lot of their hard work. It's a lot of their belief in themselves, but a lot of it, too, is because they were treated like the recruits they should have been coming in, and they were forced to work hard to earn every single thing that they have now and every single thing that they will have in the future as NFL players, as business leaders, as whatever they end up being in the real world. And that's a big part of it. I mean, we can't have these guys entering and exiting programs thinking they're the hot sauce before you even get the habanero. I mean, it's crazy. And I'm glad to see that Ohio State is still standing on their ground. And they're going to have to do things. Urban Meyer mentioned it. You got to go with the times, but you can go with the times and do it in the right way and not sleep on the floor on the carpet.
That was a long Terrell Pryor rant.
I know. Well, you know.
The only reason I say that is because you remember he was, the number one recruit, and he put off his decision for, a month or something like that. All the hoopla is surrounded. Then he comes in here thinking he's all that in a bag of chips, part of the whole, the debacle that happened, and part of the, where are they now? Trying to hang on to the Browns as a wide receiver. So, I mean, it is what it is. My final thought as we're preparing for spring practice, number one, kind of taken away from the recruiting side of this, let's not forget this Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday, the 50th, which is kind of ironic. 5 players from Jim Tressel are playing in the Super Bowl. So it should be really called Tressel Bowl. So, I mean, you got to take tip your hat to that. Cleveland Browns, if you happen to be listening, which I know you're not, but if you happen to be listening, let's draft Buckeye maybe, because they come from a winning program. They know what it takes to win. That might be able to rub off on your other players and help you succeed. Look at Pittsburgh. Look at the 2 teams that are in the Super Bowl. I mean, it'd actually be 6, but Howerman's broke his leg or hurt his ACL during training camp, so he's out. But it is what it is.
Let me make this decree on this show right now. If the Browns draft Cardale Jones, if 12 Gauge is in Cleveland, I am becoming a Cleveland Browns fan.
You heard it here first. I will buy him the jersey.
It's on the internet. That means that it's true.
I'm serious because that's how much I like Cardale. I hope that he ends up in a position where he can win and succeed. And as weird as this is going to sound, guys, I think Cleveland could be a good spot for him.
I agree. I think, in all honesty, that the Browns should draft 2 quarterbacks and Cardale being one of them. Do like the Washington Redskins did. Also, did you guys hear Tyvis Powell's little interview with Dustin Fox at the Senior Bowl the other day?
Yeah, I saw that.
I did not.
He wants to come and play for the Browns.
That's cool.
How many people want to come and play for the Browns? That right there in itself should be, all right, take them.
Speaking of the Browns and the Lions, one last point, and I think this is something that
I
think you guys would agree with this, is yes, this recruiting class is highly ranked and I'm excited just like the two of you are, and hopefully all of our listening audience is. But keep in mind, we're talking about the Browns and the Lions and the NFL. Maybe Shannon and I are a little more scarred as a result of seeing the Browns make mistake after mistake, year after year in the.
We haven't had a defeated season, so I gotta give this one a Joe.
But as it relates to the NFL draft, and I think you guys would agree that even at the NFL level, the resources that are available to NFL teams to truly scrutinize and investigate on these players to get an idea as to how they project as professional football players, teams make mistakes. So my point being is when it comes to, well, why isn't this player playing because they were a 5-star or a 4-star? You have to forget all of that because it's entirely possible, kind of, as we started the show, it's more right now upon how the players acclimate themselves to the Ohio State culture and become integrated into the chemistry of the locker room with the coaching staff and allow the coaches to develop them academically as well as athletically for them to truly sink themselves 100% into what it means to be an Ohio State Buckeye.
Look, I agree with you as far as making mistakes and everything, but how many regimes can keep making the same mistakes over and over and over and over and over and over and over again? And how many regimes could pay $100,000 to tell you that Johnny Football isn't the answer, and you go and draft him?
Now we're talking about something. This requires more time and more alcohol than I think that.
That's high level stuff, Shannon.
Hey,
that's moonshine.
If we're going to talk Johnny, if we're going to talk Johnny Football and alcohol, we might have the cops come knocking on our door for something.
I think a lot of it is that culture, like you talked about. If you don't ever have that culture, look at the major sports. I mean, look at the NBA. It's the Lakers. It's the Celtics. It's the teams that always win that are there every single year. I mean, it's the same in the NFL. There's a little bit more parity, but the teams...
Well, see, that's not necessarily true because the New England Patriots were the laughingstock of the NFL for how long?
Yeah, but who wasn't there?
Bill Belichick and all those guys go over there, and all of a sudden it's boom.
They built that culture.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Right, and you got to build it somewhere, and hopefully, I mean, every time. I'm not getting sucked in this year. I mean, every time I'm drinking a brown and orange Kool-Aid, yeah, great coaching staff. We're putting it together. You know what? I'm done. Now, I'm not done with the team. I'm done drinking a Kool-Aid.
I'll always drink Lions Kool-Aid. I mean, I drank Matt Millen Kool-Aid. Do you know how nasty that is?
That was heavy wide receiver.
It was heavy wide receiver and a quarterback that could play piano but could not throw the football.
If there's a wide receiver to draft, he would take him.
That is a key point in these guys in this class, and it's always important to remember there's 22 spots, offense and defense, that are going to be on the field at one time. So you're going to have players that aren't going to have a major impact, and not everybody can work their way in there. And that's what's so beautiful about football is you don't have to be a superstar to have a role on a team, a major role on a team. And that's what's key. That's what's key, especially for young guys, is finding that role early and being able to grow upon it. And that's what you hope for in these guys. Some guys are going to be miss at times. Some guys are going to be hit at times. It's just the way it is. And it's hard to, when you've got 4 and 5-star and whatever their ranking is, let's just say when you have very, very, very talented players coming in and exiting, and they're always, that is the regular at Ohio State. There's going to be some really, really, really good players that don't make it in the instance of being the stars we expected them to be, quote unquote.
Well, and that's the thing too. You mentioned that, excuse me, but based on a simple fact of the whole senior class, one of the most successful senior classes in the nation's history, basically 50 wins and 4 losses. You had the 9 players that left early. So you have all these openings. You have all this talent that's, in the cupboard, as they say. Talent coming in. I mean, these guys are going to be competing for these jobs, and they're going to be putting everything out on the line. And we're going to see nothing but greatness come out of what we're going to see next year and the years to come. And that's because Urban Meyer knows who to pick, fits the system, character, leadership, and all that other stuff. I'm not trying to knock on anybody, but you look at somebody like Kareem Walker, who was committed to Ohio State, decommits to go to that team up north, says, "Oh, I'm all about competition and everything like that." Really? If you were, you would have stayed at Ohio State. But no, you went up to that team up north because there's no competition, and you think you're bad enough in order to be able to step on the field and be the greatest. It's going to be funny if, look at the Ezekiel Elliott and I believe it was Derek Green. Derek Green was rated higher than Ezekiel Elliott. Where are they now?
Iron sharpens iron. That's the big thing for Urban Meyer.
Exactly.
Proverbs, he quotes Proverbs in his book Above the Line, and iron sharpens iron. And what makes players so much better is having that iron.
If Chuck's listening and you didn't give him credit, he's going to beat you for that.
I read it in the book. I don't need to give Chuck credit.
I mentioned it on your show and you stole it.
Well, I'll give him credit now that I've already said that I read the book. So credit goes to that guy named Mally Buckeye. I can't even say Chuck on the show.
All right. So don't forget, get your spring tickets. They're on sale now. My biggest thing that I'm waiting for, and I hope this so happens. Remember last year, Ohio State almost had 100,000. Everybody down south was like, well, that's because we got better things to do. We don't sit here and watch college football during the springtime. So help me God. Alabama, Clemson, you guys sell out your stadiums. Yeah, it's going to be a fun little spring. Hypocrites. So, hate to have to end the show because it's always fun working with Chip and having Joe on as a guest. This is going to do it for this edition of Men in Scarlet and Gray. I want to thank our friend Joe Dexter from Script Ohio and Buckeye Battle Cry. Joe Dexter for stopping in. Thank you for coming on and joining us today, Joe.
Absolutely. Love being on the show. Listen every time you guys put one out, and you guys got some of the best fans out there, too. I love listening and love being on.
Thanks for being on.
And we definitely do. Yes. Chip, where can people find your work? Well, actually, first of all, I'm sorry. Joe, tell them where they can get find you on Twitter and your work and all your other. We got another hour left, so you can go ahead and pip yourself.
Well, you can find me on Twitter at Buckeye Radio. You can find me in Reidsville, North Carolina, where I write for the local newspaper. You can nobody cares. You can find me at thebuckeyebattlecry.com, and then my show with my good friend Claire Crawford every Monday and Friday on Buckeye Sports Radio and buckeyesportsradio.com.
Every Monday through Friday.
Yeah, every Monday through Friday.
It's a very good show. You guys should be listening to it.
We try.
Chip, where can people find your stuff?
Well, I agree with you, Shannon, that if you're not listening to Script Ohio and Joe and Claire Monday through Friday, you're missing out. Thanks to Joe for joining us and all of his views and perspectives on Ohio State recruiting. But as for how people can contact me or follow me, it's at Chip Minnick, MINNICH on Twitter. Do contribute to Men of the Scarlet and Gray as well as athlonsports.com, and I have my own personal blog. Maybe I'll write up something about the Browns and some kind of secret taxation plan on my personal blog from the mindofminnick.blogspot.com.
Yeah, it's a bunch of holarchy.
And Chip still allows me to be on the show, even though the first time I ever did a show with him, I call him Chip Minnick.
That's all right. I get called worse, and the day is still young.
Hey, when we first started doing the shows, that's what I used to call him back in the day.
All right.
He had off the air, he was like, excuse me.
Shannon,
it's like Dad pulling you aside by your ear. Come here. You can find my stuff if interested on Twitter at smsummers84. Love talking with you guys and discussing college football. It's a lot of fun. You could check out some of my work, which hopefully I'm going to have something coming out about my early predictions of the 2016, how the Big Ten is going to shake out. So we'll see how that comes out. Also starting a site called BurningRiverChronicles.com if you guys want to check that out. Slow but surely, trying to get around to it and get myself motivated and going. Don't forget, you can listen to our show on Buckeye Sports Radio. It's a V-Sporto channel. Download the app in your app store. You can also listen to our show on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, and I believe from what I read, coming soon, sometime in February, maybe towards the end of February, We will be able to listen to podcasts through your Android Google Play app, or Google Music app or whatever, because they're supposed to be releasing the podcasts on there, and we've been approved on there for a long, long time now. So just waiting for that to roll out.
And I can confirm that Men of the Scarlet and Gray podcast is officially on the Windows Podcast Store.
Woohoo! Did not know that. I don't have a Windows phone, so I don't know that. But I appreciate you letting us know. So yeah, you can check us out, and don't forget, please don't forget. I mean, Script Ohio is definitely a great show, and there's other great shows on Buckeye Sports Radio. But definitely check out Joe and Claire's. They do an excellent job, and one of these times we can have to reach out and get Claire on our show, and so she doesn't feel slighted over here.
I know, you better get her on. I'm telling you.
I know. All right, for Shannon Summers, Chip Minnick, and Joe Dexter, thank you for listening, and go Bucks.